Hi, this is Robert Clickybeard and David Anderson with the Commercial Landscaper podcast. We're going to take 20 minutes of your life to deliver some amazing business content from accomplished leaders to bring you value, to scale your business, and to better yourself personally. And really hopefully you enjoyed. Cheers, everyone. Hi, this is Robert Clickybeard with the Commercial Landscaper podcast. I'm super excited today to be joined by Thom Singer. Thank you for joining me, Thom.
Hey, Robert, thanks for having me.
So, Thom, for all of my listeners, tell them all a little bit about your background, why you're here. You've obviously got some extensive background in business, and love my audience to hear a bit more about you.
Sure. My background was I had a somewhat successful career in sales, marketing, and business development for what I would call services companies to the tech industry. So I worked for law firms, I worked for banks, I worked for consulting firms, and my job was to do business development for them, to grow their reputation in the community so that they would end up on more short lists and therefore win more business for all of the professionals. But along the way, I started training them on how to get involved in the community. Why do you volunteer? Why do you get involved with different organizations? And how do you really, as individual people on a team, grow your inner circle to bring more business, which basically helps the entire firm? And I started doing a lot of that, and I've been doing it for several years. And one day someone came up to me and said, "Why do you work for us? Why don't you just go out and speak on this idea of community and collaboration all around the country?" And I was like, God, I don't know. You get to just go be a speaker. I think you have to be famous or something. And this one person said to me, "No, we hire a lot of people who aren't famous." And so I ended up writing several books and starting to speak. And then in 2009, I became a full-time professional speaker and trainer.
Cool. I love that. I love that story. And never look back, I assume. You're enjoying it and spreading your messages.
Yeah, I've never looked back. I occasionally will go and do some like longer term projects with companies, and sometimes people will want me to come in and run a project and things along those lines. But speaking is always going to be a part of it. Even if I'm working for a company, I'm like the ambassador for that company, making speeches on their behalf and stuff like that. So yeah, I love being able to go out and share the message.
Cool. Now we'll dive into that today. Now, obviously you've gone out to you probably don't even know how many companies you've talked to or events you've been to, but you've obviously got your message out there a lot. What are some of the challenges you come across when, because a lot of times I go into companies and they really struggle with the sales, the marketing piece. They maybe do like a social media campaign. It's almost like that shotgun approach. Never really have any type of strategy around sales. So what are some of the challenges that you come across when you go into companies?
Well, yeah, I've given over 1,000 professional speeches since I started doing it part-time in about 2005. So since 2005, I've presented to 1,000 audiences, and that's both association and inside companies. And so the message kind of moves a little bit depending who the audience is. But one of the biggest challenges is if you go back to 2005, when I started speaking on this idea of community and collaboration and building your reputation and brand, that was about the time that all this social media stuff began. And then if you move forward closer to, 2010, it exploded. And the problem is so many people out there think, "Oh, I don't have to actually network, or I don't have to go out and invest time in people because I can just build my social media presence." And I'm a big fan of social media, but I remind everybody that a like, a link, a share, or a follow is not actually a business relationship. We have so many people who we collect their digital links, but they don't know who we are. They don't know the products and services that we offer. And strangers do not ever refer you business. But people who you've established those connections with, they will refer you business. And in businesses like, we'll use commercial landscaping as an example, a lot of the business comes from people who know your reputation and know the work that you do. They've worked with you before, or someone else has told them about you. So building those relationships with property managers, with architects, with whoever are your best referral sources is the key to growing the business. And yet we get so busy, we just stick with the little inner circle that we have and we don't expand it. When people can add one or two more people, if everyone in your company who is outward facing added one or two more people to their inner circle and made a stronger inner circle, that's worth more than adding thousands of people to social media, because social media is mostly just noise. but real relationships bring opportunity.
No, no, so true, so true. One of the things you just reminded me of, and I had a fairly large BD team, and when I go into another companies, they say, "Oh, I'm thinking about joining the CEI or the BOMA, like Business Owners Management Associations," and they suddenly think that they're going to get all this great business from just suddenly signing up at a lunch or something. I said, no, it doesn't work there. That way, you probably need a minimum 6 to 12 months before you get involved in the association, trying to build that trust. But then, as you say, when you start latching on to a few people to build that trust up, then you could take that relationship to a level 2, a level 3 type relationship. So ties right into some of the things that you're saying. So yeah, I'd love to hear more about what are some of the practices that again, you go into do engagements with companies and trying to just teach them through, trying to build on that 1 or 2 really core relationships.
Yeah, well, you bring up a perfect point. And that is people join all types of associations. They're, the BNIs of the world or the chambers of commerce or the Young Men's Business League or the Young Women's Alliance. And they think, well, now that I paid my dues and I'm on some membership roster, people are going to start referring me. Well, no, you're not going in referring people. You don't know who they are. You're not doing that. They're not going to do it for you. I tell people it takes 7 to 10 interactions with a person, not before you become their friend, but before they even start to notice you exist inside these organizations. So that means you have to go every month to their whatever type of meeting that they have. And you have to realize it's going to be 7 months to a year before you're going to start even feeling like you're part of the group. I'm a real big believer in joining organizations, trade associations, different types of peer groups. I'm a big fan of that because that really does help you learn and grow and builds relationships and brings you referrals. But you have to go in with a long-term focus on it. So I'm really active in the National Speakers Association, and that's just a trade association for people who use the spoken word as their business. And people tell me all the time, "Oh, I joined and went once and I didn't get anything out of it." And I'm like, "You went once?" I went to 2 events a year nationally and everything in my local market for 3 years before I started getting actual value. But now I wouldn't have a business if I hadn't gotten involved with that organization because of the not only the referrals that people have given me, but the education I've gotten from the organization, but even more important, what I've learned from watching my friends. Because when you build friendships with people in your industry, they can't help it. Success leaves clues. So you want to get around successful people and just start watching. And sometimes you build friendships and they tell you, but sometimes you can just observe, oh, there's a good idea. So the first thing is you got to realize that building your network and building your brand, this is it's not a verb. You don't go networking. It's a lifestyle and you have to be committed to it for years. And I tell business owners all the time who want to grow in their community, I say it can take you 5 years from doing the things I teach before you're going to get the results. And I had one guy tell me one time, "Well, wait a minute, Thom, I'm 50 years old. In 5 years, I'll be 55. And my answer was, "Well, God, I hope so." Because the alternative is dead. So, you're going to be 55 either way. But 55, you still have a long runway of work in front of you. Would you like to have a strong network with many years being built? Or do you want to turn around at 55 and say, "Oh, now I really should start building my network"? Because then you're going to be 60 before you see the payoff. So there's an old when it comes to this whole idea of expanding your network, there's an old Chinese proverb. The best time to plant a tree was 30 years ago. Second best time to plant a tree is today. So I tell people, wherever you are, however old you are, however long your business has been around, start today at trying to build those relationships that bring you that advancement.
No, some great words there. I love one of the points you mentioned earlier about the 7 to 10 interactions, because that's so true. That again, people turn up at some of these lunches and they sit there, they hardly say a word. They pass the bread, maybe say a couple of words, and then suddenly they're complaining a few months later that they can't get any business from it. To talk about one of the things I used to really encourage, again, to speed up that interaction or that trust part, was to not only join associations and attend some of the events, but get involved in things like committees, or maybe some other social events like golf tournaments or something. And again, when you're maybe out late, or having a couple of drinks or something, then again, you have some really great conversations at that level, and people can actually see you at work.
Yeah, well, human relationships are built through shared experiences, not through likes, links, shares, and follows and clicks. So everyone's looking for a shortcut. And right now, one of the hottest things in business is LinkedIn. And I've been using LinkedIn for, I don't know, 20 years, however long it's been around. And the problem with it is just because you find someone on LinkedIn and send them an email saying, buy my stuff, nobody wants that. But if you find somebody and you find out who they are and you're able to correspond, you can learn about them. I think LinkedIn, instead of being a way to spam people about your business, the best way to use LinkedIn is before you have a meeting with anybody, look at their LinkedIn and look for what you have in common with them. Now, I didn't do it today. I often do it before I'm on a podcast, but I was running a little late. I often look up the host of the podcast and I look for, what do we have in common? Where did they go to college? What friends do we know? What companies have they worked for? And you don't always find that connection. But when you can find something on their LinkedIn profile that you have in common, you went to the same school, whatever it is, that can fast forward that relationship. I have a great example of how this happened. I was being considered to be the speaker for a technology event, and the meeting planner really wanted me. She'd seen me at an event, but the CEO of the association said, he's not really a technologist. He's not what I'm looking for. And she said, take the call. And he said, all right, we'll have the call. And she warned me, he's taking the call just out of courtesy. So I looked him up on LinkedIn. And when we got on the phone, the first thing I said to him is, oh my gosh, I see that you went to Carnegie Mellon University. And he got so excited. He's like, did you go to CMU? And I said, no, all my money does. Because at the time, my daughter was a junior at Carnegie Mellon. Right. And he started laughing, and he loved his alma mater. And my daughter was having a great experience there. So we talked about the school. We talked about the city of Pittsburgh. We talked for like 15 minutes about everything around, the school. And all of a sudden he turned to his meeting planner, who they were sitting together, and he said, get a contract. He's our speaker. We never talked about his concerns, about what I was going to talk about. So if you can find sort of an uncommon connection with somebody, that will fast forward the relationship. So don't use LinkedIn as a way to spam people. Use LinkedIn as a way to learn about people when you're going to have a meeting.
Right. That's again, great advice here. It sort of ties into my next question around, we've obviously experienced, dreaded COVID over the last, 24, 30 months. And a lot of the complaints I heard, well, nobody wants to meet anymore. Everybody's turning virtual. I mean, what are some of the other ideas around, again, just trying to build that network, or trying to find those one or two real connections that can help you expand quickly?
Well, it's interesting because I hear the same thing. People say, oh, nobody wants to meet. Well, that's not true. My calendar is pretty full, and it's oftentimes people wanting to meet with me. So people do want to meet. Not everybody. Some people like the virtual stuff. And in that case, you meet people where they are. However, the human to human in-person conversations are still going to help people build relationships better. So are you willing just to say, oh, nobody wants to meet, and cede that to your competitor? Think about this for a minute. What if your competitor, in this transition back to society, what if your competitor is doing a better job at building human relationships with prospects and clients? And I want you to think about something. Your clients are your competitors' prospects. What if they're doing a better job at meeting with people and making people feel connected to them? Are you willing to let them have your clients and future prospects? And the answer should be no. So therefore, yeah, it might be more difficult, but if everything was easy, everybody would just be printing money. It's the investment you make in people will pay off more than just about any other investment that you make, except for maybe, of course, obviously the equipment that you need to do landscaping businesses. But the investment you make in people will pay off forever. So don't assume not everybody wants to meet. If some people don't want to meet, figure out how you're going to meet them on Zoom or by phone or whatever. But when you can get face-to-face with people and you can share an experience, your competitor can never take that relationship from you.
No, I love that. I love that. So I've got a company that are thinking about, they're listening to you right now. They're maybe being used to shotgun approach. They're doing social media. They're just taking all the bids coming into them. There's no relationships. They're a lot of the property managers are going just through the motions to try and get another number there. You coming into a company, how do you change that whole mindset around the sales team and changing it from more, building relationships, maybe having fewer prospects, but just more higher quality
Sure.
prospects?
Well, first of all, it's not an either or thing. I'm a fan of social media. I think it helps build your reputation and your brand with people who already know you. It's rare that somebody finds people for a business to business type product, especially some higher ticket item like landscaping, where they're just going to find them on social media without some sort of social proof from referrals, from reputation in the community, etc. So yes, do the shotgun approach because there are bluebirds. These things do fall. I had someone the other day say, well, I just got a client that way. They found me off of, I don't know, Instagram or something. And I said, great. How long have you been doing Instagram? 5 years. How many clients have found you? This is the first one. And I'm like, okay, so let's not focus on the outlier. Let's focus on how do you get most of your business? Well, most of their business came from referrals, reputation, and brand in their community. And so the problem is each of their salespeople had a list of like 300 people. The problem is human beings can't keep up with 300 people. Figure out who your top 50 people are. I tell companies, figure out for each person who is outward facing, who are 50 relationships they need to cultivate and get closer to. Take out the ones that you already are their favorite person. Don't take the easy ones where they're going to give you the business forever, or it's your brother-in-law whose company is giving you the business. He's probably not going to pull that business. And figure out who are the 50 people who either could be doing business with me or referring business to me. And every single quarter, make sure that you're having some sort of meaningful connection with those people. If you could have, and there's no way 50 is too many. People go, oh, I'm too busy. I can't do 50. Yeah, you can. That's essentially, person every day, every other day, something like that. You can have some sort of a connection once a quarter with everybody on that. If you do that for several years, some of those people you'll take off the list because they're not interested. They're not nibbling. You're not getting closer to them. And then you add new people, but keep a living list of 50 people who you're having meaningful connections with every quarter. And you're going to find you're adding people into that inner circle, and it's going to lead to more referrals. Now, here's the thing. That's all fine and dandy. But if you're not making those touches, if you're not making that list and really having meaningful connections, then it's just a list. Creating a list and letting it sit in your drawer doesn't do you any good. And then people ask me, well, Thom, what's a meaningful connection? Well, can you get them out to lunch? Can you meet them for happy hour? Can you send them an article that you run across that's just for them? But don't broadcast it. Don't send a newsletter to all 50 people thinking that matters, because your inbox is full of newsletters that you never open. Send individual, meaningful connections where you're adding value to everybody on that list every quarter. And sometimes it takes work. You look at the list and it says Mary, and you're like, what am I going to do? What am I going to send Mary? You're going to have to figure out what are the problems she's facing in her business. Is there something you can send her? What does she like to do? Do she and her husband like to go to a baseball game? Whatever it is, you're going to have to put in the work for some people to figure out what is a meaningful way to share time with this person. But that's what you have to do. In order to grow in business, we got to do the work. I mean, I'd love for money just to fall off the shelf, but that's not the way it works in my industry.
Yeah, no, great messages. Just again, rings a bell of a lot of the conversations I used to have with my team. You did bring up, something I wanted to touch on real question. We'll probably have a time for another question or two. How much time do you spend on really establishing who that core customer is? Because again, you can have a ton of customers out there, but if there are a handful of 10 real core clients that raving fans, they're referring you to others, they're buying without necessarily challenging with prices, then it's nice to identify those core clients and then almost use their traits or profiles to help filter, again, other prospects coming in through the pipeline. How much time do you spend on identifying those?
Well, you should always be identifying it. One of the things I do when I work with a company is I say, where did your last 10 or 15 great pieces of business come from? So let's go through your receipts for the past 6 months or a year, and let's look for the 10 or 15 best new clients that you got. How did you get connected with this client? All of a sudden, you'll start to see patterns. Oh, we were referred by a landscape architect. Awesome. So you have 10 clients and 8 of the best ones were referred by 2 different landscape architects. Maybe we should have 7 or 8 landscape architects who we're building relationships with, if those are the best referrers. So spend the time every quarter looking at where's our business coming from. And then number 1, make sure that you solidify those relationships. If you're getting a lot of referrals from Becky, are you thanking Becky? Are you making Becky feel appreciated? So that's number 1. And then number 2, who else out there is like Becky that we can go out and build relationships with? Because if that's a good relationship, somebody else in a role like hers at another company might be a good relationship with. So you always should be spending a little bit of time researching where is the business coming from and then recreating those patterns.
I love that. And talking about Becky, what does it look like to recognize or thank Becky? Is it because, is it just a simple thank you? Is it showering them with gifts? Is it taking them for an exotic cruise? I mean, obviously there's different degrees and how much business they're bringing, but yeah, I often get asked that question. I never really have a good answer for them.
So it's going to have a lot of variables. It depends on your industry. It depends on how big the ticket items of the referrals are. It depends on the relationship that you have with person. Are they allowed to accept gifts? Certain types of companies have rules. If you're dealing with anybody in the public sector, they can't accept any type of gift. So you have to know the parameters of where they work for and things like that. But I work with a lot of law firms, and I tell the law firms, here's the deal. Figure out what a small, medium, and large referral is. Small referral gets like a $25 gift card to a Starbucks with a handwritten note saying, oh my gosh, I really appreciate your referral. We'll take good care of this client. Boom, mail that to them. A medium-sized referral might get like a $100 bottle of wine. Same thing, handwritten note. Thank you so much for what you do. And then a large referral, you might take that referral source and their spouse out to the fanciest restaurant in your town to say thank you. So a lot of it depends on the relationship you have with the person, the size of the referral. And so just build some parameters for small, medium, and large, what works, because the larger the referral, the bigger the thank you should be. Now, it could also be as simple as calling them and saying, I wanted to take this time to say thank you for these referrals that you've sent, because it means a lot to my business. And I want you to know I appreciate you. That's a good way to say thank you too. It doesn't cost you anything. But don't send a text. I got a text like this once, and it made me mad, I guess. Don't send a text that says THX for the number, not the word, ref. It's like, thanks for ref. We're not saving on characters on a text. You can actually write the word out. Don't thank somebody by text would be my answer.
Yeah, especially a shortened text, even at that. Abbreviated text.
Thanks for ref.
Yeah, that would probably upset me as well. Thom, how do people get in touch with you? What where are you situated? What books do you have? I'd love the listeners to be able to reach out to you directly.
Sure. So I live in Austin, Texas, but I travel the country, speaking to different companies and things like that. So if anybody wants to find out information about me and about that, they can go to ThomSinger, ThomSinger.com. And I've got a podcast called Making Waves at Sea Level, where I talk to executives about how to shake things up in business and be successful. And they can find that podcast really anywhere they get their podcast joy.
Cool. Awesome. Thom, thank you for your time today. Really appreciate some great words of wisdom there. Hopefully people will listen, learn, start improving their networks. So thank you again, Thom. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hopefully that was pure dead brilliant for you today, and you got some great takeaways for your business or for your personal life. This is Robert Clinkenbeard along with David Edmondson. I would love to get you and your friends to join us on your journey. If you have any ideas for future speakers, or if you just want to pass this on to friends, family, other business colleagues to sign up and subscribe, that would be awesome. Anyway, thanks everyone, and have a great 2022. Cheers.